Welcome, everyone, to the voice of sanjoaquin.org, right here off the Miracle Mile in Stockton, California. This is Betty Ramirez with Sabor Latino. Thank you so much for tuning in. This segment here is going to be about the veterans. And I know that this week I have been very busy attending a lot of ceremonies for the veterans. And I'd like to bring it to you live right here on your community radio station, the voice of San Joaquin. I covered Bob Hope Theater. They had the Veterans Day ceremony right there. And then I also covered the Marines, a Marine by the name of Chris Lambert, who was covering a little bit of his experience during Vietnam War. And it was during the time of Healing in Motion at the San Joaquin at the St. Mary's Joseph Hospital here in Stockton, California. So I wanted to play it for you. And then after that, I'm going to play you some other recordings that I did for the 241st birthday for the Marines. And that was a beautiful Marine ball at the Hilton. And that's going to be also included. So I just thought I'd let you know that I'm going to be playing some of the shows that I recorded in the past, but they're so worthy that I'd like to share with you. Again, this is Betty Ramirez reporting right here at the Voice of San Joaquin on Sabor Latino Show.
See a Purple Heart, you've already got one. Okay, so you haven't seen this. The smart people don't have 2 stars on them. The government won't pay you, give you an extra medal if you get it. They give you stars. And here's my last piece about the Vietnamese people. In 1991, I had a business in this town.
Thank you. Thank you for your services.
I had a business in this town. In fact, I had a couple of businesses. I was fairly successful. My wife went over to get her nails done at a Hammer Ranch shopping center. Okay. I was coaching out at Pioneer Little League. Some of you guys might still be here out on El Dorado. I was coaching. I was raising kids. I had 2 daughters at Lincoln High. Where's my Lincoln High gal? Over there. I had 2 daughters in Lincoln and a kid, youngster, my boy in Sierra. It's 1991. It's 22, 23 years since I came home from Vietnam. My wife goes to get her nails done in this Vietnamese nail place. Starts talking to the owner. He's from Way City. This is my husband over Way City. He gave her this piece of candy. And he said, I want you to know there's 4 families that are living very good here in America. They're doing a lot of great stuff for America. They're all going to college. Were you the oldest in your school? Were you second? So you, the oldest finished college and then you went? Mm-hmm. The families are dynamite. Absolutely dynamite. Did you have any younger?
Yes.
And then when you're done, you help them get through, right?
Mm-hmm.
I knew that before I asked her about that. Right? He said, we have 4 families that live and work here, and they're having productive, prosperous lives. Give this to your husband. Thank you. It was in 1991. I came home in 69. It was the first person that ever said thank you. And it wasn't around that American. So, okay. See how easy that was? Thanks for what you do. You're looking at a 70-year-old recovering alcoholic grandfather, right? It's really hard and difficult to talk about being a youngster. It's hard to talk about the change in your life. I'm here about PTSD, which everybody has. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. Anybody that says that, oh, I can't do this because of my PTSD, bull. Really? absolute bull. I didn't go to the VA for 40-something years, and when they told me I had PTSD, I flipped them off, right? I am a Christian, but that was my way of saying, no, I'm not, okay? Now I'm blessed they even give me a key to their psych ward to go in to talk to vets when they can't talk to them. But I want you to meet the other Chris Lambert. He's a high school senior, talented athlete, scholarship to SC, wants to play baseball. My best friend, George Page. We're in Santa Monica, for some of you guys that are aware of it. Then I get thrown out of Santa Monica High for, I got in some trouble. Back then they had this stuff that you smoked and you got high and if you got caught. And it wasn't me, it wasn't mine.
It grew on a bush.
Yeah. And I ended up at Venice High and fortunately won the city championship and it was just kicking me a little farther. Actually, I was thinking about signing instead of going to college. Let me back this up a minute. The guy had owned the world. I was class president, right? I was really popular. There was nothing going to stop me. Nothing.
This was at Venice High?
At Venice, yeah. My dad was a combat wounded Marine in Okinawa. Drone sergeant.
Hoorah.
Right? It was really more important for me to please my dad than it was to further my career as a person. So right out of high school, I joined the Marine Corps. That was me graduating from boot camp back when Chong and I, when we went through a boot, you didn't get the stripes for anything other than busting your ass, and I was an overachiever and made PFC out of boot. I met my first wife, Miss Palm Springs, so when I saw you ladies walk in today. I was a chauffeur for a beauty pageant just before I went to boot camp, and I met her. She was Miss Palm Springs, and she was in nursing school, and I'd come home on my leaves every weekend, and we'd party, and we'd do our thing together, and we realized that my combat pay could finish off her nursing school, and we'd have about 6 months, and then I would go to college if I didn't get my baseball scholarship back. So we got married about a month before I went. Now again, if you see this kid, if you see those eyes, if you see that smile, there is nothing going to stop me. I own the world. I trust everyone. You're just getting ready to leave. Now that's my buddy George, because he found out I was, and he was already in the Navy. He signed up to join a unit called HAL 3. They were basically airborne tanks for everybody in South Vietnam because it was all muddy. You couldn't have tanks. So they started putting together gunships, and one of the most decorated people in the Navy. Now this is the same kid. 11 months after he got his high school diploma. Seen more death than you'll see in a lifetime. Had to lose too many friends and do things that were unimaginable. From that day on, the world never became safe again. That paradigm shift is so vivid, and there's no way you can tell anybody. If you come up behind me to this day and touch me on the back, I'm gonna jump. Right? We used to laugh because my dad was a combat wounded Marine too, and we would wake him up with a broom, right? We had to get him up for something, we'd touch him with a broom, and he'd flew out of bed. Well, you know, I lived out by Lincoln High. My kids started doing the same thing to me. That's what you can refer to as PTSD. Ain't happy no more. You're still 18.
What happened to your arm?
I got my wrist shattered. I was walking point, I tripped. I moved. And I lived. And the two guys died. You're the first ones to ever ask me that. Well, I get home and I get discharged. This is March of 1969. Excuse me. This is June of 1969. George gets shot down in South Vietnam, gets burnt really bad. They get him back to Oakland, put him in the burn center there. Today he would probably live, but he didn't. This is where the war chases you home. Now, not only is it not safe in Vietnam or not safe wherever you're at, now you realize that it's never going to leave you. My dad's pretty jacked to it. You can see that picture. That's the best way I can describe PTSD for you. I'm taking my wife. She just got her state boards. I'm driving her home from the party that they put on. We're in Beverly Hills. We had a little beat up one-bedroom furnished apartment in West LA, and I had a couple of beers. We're both teenagers still. And I leaned over and kissed her at the stop sign. Now basically we're fresh out of high school and she's out of college. And we're getting ready to go to our apartment and party. It'd be nice because you're the daughter and you're young. And this guy behind me honks his horn. And I spun. And I pulled over and I chased him home. He jumped out of his car and he tried to get in his front door, and I jumped out of mine and I beat him when the door didn't slam. And I catch him in the kitchen and I'm trying to kill this man. I just spun. And I would do that about every 2 or 3 months. And then my wife said, she said, I married a sweet, kind, loving young man. In less than a year, you become an animal. We can't make it. And she was right. I had become that animal. It doesn't leave. All 5 of those guys were patched up by this corpsman. You love your corpsman, huh?
Doc.
8404. Anybody hear corpsman by chance? No.
Any nurses?
Huh? Nurses, same thing, but
That's right,
actual
that's
corpsman.
what
I actually wrote a poem about corpsmen because, they're a lot smarter than us Marines and they're side by side with us, right? We're too dumb to tell them how much we love them. So years later, I write a poem called 8404, which is their MOS. When I give one now, you'll see tears from them sometime. Anyway, this guy was Doc Turley, patched me up twice. My Purple Heart's going around here. I actually got 2 of them in one night. And what happened was, I got banged pretty hard, and Turley patched me up, and so we were overran. We couldn't call timeout. Well, then Turley got hit, and I went out to help him, and then we both got hit again. And back at Fubai Med, he was telling the doctor what happened, and this doctor said, well, it sounds like you got hit in 2 separate days and 2 separate firefights. So anyway, that thing that's going around is because of Doc Turley was a great Marine. All 5 of us went to see him. This guy's named Ron Powers. Got killed in August of 68. I was gone. This guy, Rick Early. He promised Ron's family, and this is kind of your piece here with the survivors. He promised Ron as he was dying that he would come home and tell his family how brave he was. Well, when he got home, he got into heroin himself and killed the pain the best way he could for about 15 years until he started having kids and he got sober. So he came out to visit. I was a guest of honor at a Marine Corps ball, and we went to Fresno where Ron's buried. We found his sister, and that's where I stumbled on the price that the family pays. Okay. And yourself. The family never, and the sisters really, the Gold Star sisters. When I leave here today, I'm going to see a Gold Star dad, a guy named Mike Anderson, works here in San Jose, and he used to work for Congressman Denham until.
That was with Tom Patty.
Huh?
That was with Tom Patty.
Yeah.
Supervisor.
Yeah. I don't worry, I got to text him when I leave. Great guy. My point is that we just never are able to 100% close the door. Right? You guys, most of America, they have no idea what the hell is going on, and we live it every day. Okay. Whether I hear somebody in training that we lose, or if they're in Afghanistan, Iraq, wherever the case is, there's a firefight, we lose 2 guys. And for me, I don't know about you, but I was a Lance Corporal, I was Colonel Lance, right? And anytime I hear Lance Corporal, it even magnifies that guy a little bit more. I don't know what it does to me in the heart, but, you know. Trouble, Lance, or when you hear that?
When I hear it, just like what you said.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all really close. That speaks for itself.
Yep.
Anyway, that's kind of the bird's eye view of PTSD without getting too graphic. Usually if you got a guy telling you a lot of war stories and shooting a lot of bullets and how they went through 14,000 magazines, ain't been there.
Yeah, I got
Okay.
a magazine for you. Fucking my boot. I'm like, try to dodge that.
I want to read this to you. I don't think I read this in the last group. And for a lot of combat vets, it's not what we did. It's just what we saw. And I try every treatment modality the VA offers, right? Strictly because I want to, if I meet you and you have a certain little twig that most people can't get to, I want to have somebody I know I can refer you to. I had a veteran that I met in a PTSD group. He was so drunk that day, the group's about as big as this room, right here, maybe 30, 35 vets. He was so drunk he couldn't hold his head up. Did you meet Diego?
Yes.
So I meet this guy, he's tatted, completely tatted all over the place. He was with you guys, 3-1, first push. Not 3-1, 3-4, but
Okay.
Lima Company. I gave him my card. I've been in recovery for almost 40 years, so, you know, talking to a wet drunk Jesus, most people know that. I gave him my card and I said, if you ever want to change your life, you can get a hold of me. Well, a year later, he'd been through 8 rehabs and he just came out of the second psych ward he was down in Balboa.
San Diego.
Oh, man.
Spent a little time there?
No, I just know how thorough.
Yeah, they are, right? It didn't help him, but he said he had the best view of the Pacific Ocean, right? He's unfortunately double lockup in the psych ward. Anyway, he finally calls me and he said, look, he said, I'm crapping blood, right? I just got out of my second psych ward. I've been through DNA 8 times, which is a rehab we have up in Sacramento. And I'm drinking. And I said, well, you come up here, you meet with me, we'll talk about it. When I met him, behavior Latino, right? And usually you can't see jaundice like we can get, like bad drunks can get when the liver shuts down in Mexicans, right? You could see it in Diego. The whites of his eyes, dark. And he was scared. He had a great job with the state. He was working for DMV. It's really hard to fire you. Some people work for the state, right?
Yeah.
I gave him 2 options. I said, I'm really concerned about you. So I'm going to give you 2 choices. You either go to your parents' house and pack a bag, and you come to my house and you spend 1 year with me and my wife, or keep living like you're living and die in the next 3 or 4 or 5. I promise you, you will die. And he did. He was tied to my hip. Everywhere I went, he went. I had an old high school girlfriend down in Santa Monica that had lost her husband at OD to Vietnam vet, and I went down to process some stuff with her one day, and we're driving to LA. On the way back, he shares with me his trauma had nothing to do with the war. His 3-month-old baby died of SIDS when he was overseas. He never got to see his sons. And he had no way to process it, and he never got with a counselor or in a group where the environment was safe enough for him to, what I call, cough up that fur ball. He had been with me for 7 months, and we're driving back from LA, and a bunch of us had just went to see that movie McFarlane, if you remember that movie.
McFarlane, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we were driving through McFarlane, so I was teasing, come on, Beaner, right? No offense, don't sue me now, right? I said, come on, Beaner, we're going to go to McFarlane, we'll send it to your dad, we'll send it to your uncles. And it comes from a beautiful family. And if anybody's familiar with the 12 steps of AA, right? He had just given me his fist down. I mean, you're just coughing up everything you've ever done this in your life that you're embarrassed of, right? And you always leave 2 or 3 things out. There's just 2 or 3 things you don't want to tell anybody in the world, okay? We're leaving McFarland, he's in the truck, I say, look, I know there's 2 or 3 things that you left out, and I get him in a way out to do that, where he can follow the 5th step, complete it, and not have to be worried about being embarrassed for me or whatever. I said, is there any major thing you left out that you want to share with me? And he said, the day I lost my son. This guy had told me everything under the sun for the last 6 or 7 months. He had went through hell getting sober, but he never even brought up that he had a son. He wasn't getting drunk because of the combat. He was getting drunk because he couldn't know how to deal with losing a boy. That's where I say everybody in this room has some PTSD of some nature. The biggest problem that we can have with it is not sharing it. Not finding a group just like Mary has set up over the years and Jim jumps into. On the back of my cards, I had them made up years ago, and it says, let's talk. Vets help vets. No one left behind does not stop when our combat boots land on American soil. Whatever problem we have, somebody else in this world has it. The problem is we don't talk about it. I was a youth pastor for Bear Creek Church. You guys might be familiar with that church when it first started.
Bear Creek?
Yeah, we were actually meeting in the junior high school when it first started. Where it's at now, we busted our ass to make the money to buy that place. I'm Bill Cummings' only friend. I don't know if you know Bill. I was at his
I
wedding.
know of Bill.
Yeah, really.
Yes, very close.
Anyway, so I don't usually share this with adults, but I'm going to share it with you guys. So I'm making pretty good dough. I'm coaching. I get to know Bill. We lose our high school youth director, so he asked me if I'll take the job. The truth was, he knew I made enough money where he didn't have to pay me. Right? And I was still a baby Christian, so I was concerned about not being able to, there were still times when he would bring up 1 Corinthians, and is that New Testament, Old Testament? One of those guys. Right? So I didn't think I could do it. But I knew once I found some common ground with these kids, they would tell me what they needed, and then I could go ask the professionals. Very first day I'm in there, they're goofing around, and I shared with them. I said, look, when I was in high school, I was smoking dope, I was drinking, I was having sex, I was lying to my parents, and doing a lot of worse things that I want to talk about. It wasn't very good grammar, was it? And I said, I know nobody in this room, these are high school seniors and juniors, right, in Stockton, does any of that. And everybody starts to laugh.
Yeah, that's
Right?
That's Joe.
It was a joke. But it's kind of like this. Ever since I've been a little boy, I go to take a shower, and the warm water hits me, and I have to tinkle.
Very true.
And I just know that if I get out of the shower and get dried off, and then it's kind of stupid. But I know if I am urinating, and I miss that little drainer, that it's got to be sacrilegious or something. It's got to be bad. So my whole life I feel like crap, and I feel guilty because I won't get out and I won't go dry off, so I can go pee and then get back in the shower and get wet again. Now I had a pretty nice place over in Rivergate in Lodi, and I started to take a shower with my wife one day, and you girls do it too. I'll be darned. And my point to the kids were, we all have some of the same stuff that we do, that we think is wrong or bad or whatever the case is. Until we get rid of those fur balls, they haunt us. And then we don't have enough room. Okay, so you met Chris Lambert. You've taken through the whole thing. Did they take our sound away?
No, I think we have sound.
Never had it. We just saw you, Chris.
Pardon me?
It was all you.
Your voice carries.
Well, I'm getting ready to show you an 8-minute video, right? Because for anybody to talk as long as I have, I'm really thankful you guys haven't yawned yet. The first one that does, right? Can't come back next month. Okay? And I have a video of what I did is I sat down and put together everything that I know about recovery. Like I said, I got sober over at Pershing, over on Rivara Road. In December will be 39 years.
Rivara?
If I get, yeah.
Ha ha!
Pershing? Yeah, it used to be up the street actually before that. Anyway, I got sober there almost 39 years ago.
Brother of mine lived there.
Yeah. And over the years, I've had some great counselors. I've had some lousy ones. I went back to UOP to get my KDAC. Okay. And I put together everything that I know to put closure on Vietnam for me. And I read it to a group and some psychologists put this together and we put it on the internet. So here's 8 minutes. If my Asian buddy is good on a computer, he's a
Goodbye,
postcard.
Vietnam. Written and performed by Lance Corporal Chris Lambert, USMC, is his expression of freedom from the guilt, shame, and pain
That was it,
suffered
Terminal
for
Lance.
over 40 years from post-traumatic stress disorder caused by the trauma of combat. Goodbye, Vietnam, and your shame. Although you're 10,000 miles away and over 4 decades old, I've allowed you to consume, at times, my heart, my mind, and almost my soul. I've now been given and earned powerful emotional tools to recognize your true time and your true place. This recognition has developed an ongoing process of minimizing the power I've allowed of your memory to have over my life for way too long. It is now my responsibility to keep making your negative thoughts and memories smaller and smaller, then smaller again. It is also my responsibility to share the positive people and actions that have crossed my path here and in country. Friends and foe, hoping these anonymity protected disclosures will help not only Vietnam veterans, but all veterans, especially returning vets in our country's future. Let me begin. Goodbye to monsoon rains, leeches, mosquitoes, bug juice, P-38 can openers, frags, 19 round-filled magazines, cloth bandoliers, bone-jarring rides in the back of deuce and a half, rides inside of noisy C-130s like cargo, inside vibrating Hueys, machine guns throwing lead and hot brass as we enter that hot LZ. Chinooks lifting us in and out of hell. Goodbye to phrases like Duty Mao, Boku VC, said by little Vietnamese boys as they wisely ran the other way. How about getting short? Boom boom. Incoming. And the one I hate most, Corpsman up. Goodbye to smells. Burned gunpowder from spent shells that linger after a vicious firefight. Body odor from weeks in the bush. Same clothes, no showers. The stink of diesel fuel burning base camp shitters. Or worse yet, the smell of days old sun-baked corpses. Goodbye to shit on the shingle, powdered eggs, powdered milk, quinine tablets. You try only once. Malaria has to be better. Lousy food or none at all. resupply chopper with our mail and sea rations. Sea rats.
Yeah.
Don't forget ham and mothers. Goodbye to jungle rot, gook sores, dysentery, no sleep, no cigarettes, and that unspoken, hidden, deep terror. There's tonight, the night I die. The emotional numbness developed to cope as a human being in the midst of war's carnage and death. Goodbye to flesh-cutting elephant grass, humps of 20 and 30 clicks. How many clicks can a person hump in one day? The scary jungle, where every spot could be an ambush. Bamboo vipers, other snakes, huge bugs, booby traps, tripwires and mines. Goodbye to pallet-floored tents, uncomfortable cots with backpacks as our pillow, letters written in candlelight, or letters from home, read, then reread, somehow bringing you closer to the center. That heavy, sweaty flak jacket and helmet, our steel pot. We cook in it, shave in it. It was our pillow, our chair, and unfortunately, the crowning symbol of a battlefield goodbye to our fallen. Goodbye to Black Pajama DC, NBA, Ho Chi Minh. How about the other enemy, back home? Saliva-spitting protesters, hippies, draft dodgers, Jane Fonda, LBJ when he stopped the bombing. I will not resent any of you one more day. We all had a cause, and we were all misinformed. But my fellow veterans and I can proudly look in the mirror. I volunteered. This letter is ownership of my part and my memories. I proudly did exactly what our forefathers did before. If you would have informed me of PTSD and my changed and altered life, your warning would have most certainly fallen on deaf ears. Due to youthful innocence, combat had an allure of romance and honor. So goodbye, Vietnam. Take your shame and your pain. I'm now a proud Vietnam veteran. Lance Corporal Lambert, Alpha Company 15, Vietnam, 1968 Tech. United States Marine Corps, 67, 89.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome. This is for you, by the way. Let me finish. We just got a lot of time. I'm going to finish up with this thing. I didn't read it. The piece where everybody again in this room has. I didn't shoot this guy. I didn't do anything to this guy. I didn't even know this guy. But he touched me deeply. And for over 40 years, I didn't cognitively know it existed. And I was in a group with a bunch of vets, and one of them was talking about busting a cap and taking off part of the face, and it opened up a door for me that I needed to close. And I did it by writing. It's called Mr. No Face. Our corpsman helped me to Phu Bai Med. It was late May of '68. It was hot, dusty, and dirty. At the door we met, I thought you were dead. Your face was just ripped up brown and red flesh. If not for your hair, I wouldn't have been sure what I was looking at. Your forehead was gone. Your eyes and nose gone. Only a lower jaw, ears, and hair. When your left arm moved to shoo the flies away, our relationship became intimate. Comrades and brothers in war and pain. I naively asked our corpsman to help you. Why are you outside with the flies, inside of the doctors? You can go ahead of me. Hell, this time it's only my wrist. They say it's shattered and some other shrapnel wounds. Nothing as serious as my wounds from before. I'll be okay. I can wait. I've waited since midnight. I already said no to the damn morphine. I even walked here from RLZ. Our corpsman tells me of your inevitable fate. And at that moment, I cognitively shut our door. You've been tucked away for 4 decades plus. Coming only in bleeps as I try to make sense of that war. I'm deeply sorry. I have avoided you my entire adult life. I didn't have the mental tools to address your fate and pain. I'm with the new squad, old, aging boots with 2 very professional leaders. They're helping us to remember and deal. I'm apologizing for blocking you out of my memory. I was only 18 and I didn't have a clue. You have my respect, honor, and love. No matter what side you fought on. I'll bless your soul as a Christian. No disrespect to your personal belief. Then I'll see your face in heaven. Until then, God bless you, Mr. No Face. I'm so sorry. Everybody in this room has some of the same stuff in their cortisol. I always say when recovery is when you leave the cabeza and you get to the cortisol in love. Okay. This group is more powerful than you think. Keep working with Mary, working with yourselves, finding some of your other stuff, because we all have the same problems. We just hide them. And they don't do us a damn bit of good holding on to them. And sharing with other people, we open their doors. So thank you again.
Awesome. Well, it's kind of interesting. I take a look at the Purple Heart, like the Mona Lisa, that is just material. It's really the man who stands behind it and the symbolism that really gives it meaning, right? And I appreciate just your service, also your service as well. Who else has served as well? Okay, look around the room here. Let's give them one big round of applause for their service. And, this is all about never forgetting where you came from, right?
Right.
We have a lot of great things that happen here. We think about our country, and we think about our lives. What does it really stand for? Now, I've been studying, I shared with some of you comedians and some of the things, because that's something that is really challenging for me to do, actually stand-up comedy, even though, you can be funny at the moment, but it's different when you really do it intentionally, and people are expecting for you to make them laugh, right? But I'm going to tie it in here somewhere. But I want to just give Mary just a few words, just a few moments here, just to share her thoughts here, because I know Healing's Emotion has been, really her love and passion, and it's tough to carry on the work. We need your help. But also, of course, she has a team behind her as well. She'll tell you that. But we have a November 9th event also coming up. But I just want to give her the floor just for a couple minutes to share about what is coming on, in terms of November 9th, and also any final thoughts here. Mary Nicholson.
What's so important here is that we have people from different backgrounds and different experiences and different areas of expertise. And one of the things that you said when you introduced yourself is that you work with people, and I would like for you to speak for a minute. Through your experience, how do you assist and help people who need it? Are they all from who've served, or are they people who've had some other traumatic brain injury, or can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I'm a University of the Pacific grad, 2005. So I've been practicing speech pathology for over 10 years. So I work in skilled nursing and home health. So most of my caseload includes adults. So Ricky is probably my youngest patient, and I have older patients who are victims of strokes, brain injuries, neurologic diseases, Parkinson's, anything that has to do with speech, language, voice, swallowing, cognition. So I thoroughly enjoy my job. I'm still very ambitious about it, and I feel like in the home health setting, I feel as if I have the most impact on my patients because I hold them and their caregivers accountable for what I'm teaching. You know, when you're at a hospital or nursing home, it's kind of difficult to get that carryover, but you're just right there, and you get that direct training with the patient and caregivers.
How does someone get into your program after post-care?
So typically, my patients come from either the hospitals or skilled nursing facilities through a referral from their primary physician. So Ricky's referral was from the VA, Palo Alto, but of course local as well. So I've received patients directly from St. Joe's or nursing facilities. I work for a couple of home health agencies. So I think I'm one of 2 or 3 speech pathologists in San Joaquin County who, do home health. So it's been very rewarding, and I just love what I do and helping people.
Wonderful. Well, firstly, the road is not easy, not for the survivors or patients, but also it's a challenge for the caregivers. And so, firstly, I want to share this book with you. This is one of our speakers at the Caregiver Conference, and this one is about the soul of caregiving.
Thank you so much.
And I know that it has not been an easy journey for you, and so I hope you come. But also, read that and know, surrounding yourself with others who are going through a similar experience.
Thank you.
The emotions need to come out of you too. What did you get from that as a serving agent?
From his speech, a lot, actually. My dad is an Army veteran, and we knew he had PTSD, but he never served in a combat setting. And while you were saying with Diego, his had to do with the death of his son, and he never had the chance to process that. Shortly after my dad enlisted, his baby brother enlisted, because he saw all the praise that my father got for it, and he loved his big brother, so he followed in his footsteps, but he couldn't handle it. There was a lot going on, and he ended up committing suicide while enlisted on one of his tours. And I don't think my dad ever had a chance, because his family was the big elephant in the room that nobody addresses about literally everything. So he never had that chance to process that. And your presentation just gave me a whole new perspective on why my father's been angry and stressed, and at times emotional for my entire life. And it has affected our relationship. And it's given me now a new way to look at that and maybe present situations and scenarios with him going forward. So I really, really appreciate that.
Good. Yeah, my dad, when he died, he was had one leg morbidly obese, smoking 5 packs of cigarettes a day because my mom wouldn't get him any more booze. And I didn't understand his combat stress until after I got into my own. So good luck to you.
It's kind of an interesting thing. I just celebrated my 65th birthday. Well, but at the same time, it was the 50th anniversary of my brother's death in Vietnam. He had just mailed a box to me for my birthday. And so 2 days after they came to tell my family that he had died, I got the box. I don't know how to deal with that kind of thing. And so for a long time, it's just back there. But my sister reminded me that it was the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of my brother's passing. She put all his pictures up. And it was like a wound in my heart because we were very close. But there are so many things that we deal with that stored in the background, So, how about you?
Me?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a struggle every day. I can relate. Other days, I'm okay, but it's hard.
So it's feeding off of one another.
And Mary has something to say.
Yes,
Oh,
please.
I was going to say that my father, immediately after World War II, being out in the Pacific in the Navy, suffered a 100% disability from PTSD. They didn't even call it that then. He was in Camarillo State Hospital getting shock treatments. My mother, fortunately, really rooted for him, and he simply was working for the city of LA and drove into a pole with a new car. And when asked what in the world made that happen, he goes, well, there were combat troops going over the roof of my car. So my father hallucinated hugely and never did completely get over his PTSD. He had his disability until he passed away about 83, but there weren't medications back then to treat the disorder.
They gave him vitamin B12.
Yes. Yeah. Well, if you were fortunate, but the shock, he didn't, even back then, they didn't, the shock treatments were brutal, but he did recognize the benefit. They actually benefited him quite well at the time. But my mother got him out of Los Angeles. He grew up in Los Angeles. That's where he had joined the Navy during the war. And, in the middle of the Pacific for 4 years, those guys got about 30 days in 4.5 years of combat. But she took him, she being from the Ozarks, took him to the Ozarks of Arkansas, where things were, where he could recover. And it really did help a bit. Eventually, there were some medications that helped, but there were days, my sister and I, from our little childhood, that we could not leave our bedrooms. Dad's nerves were bad. We had to stay in our pajamas all day long. I mean, my sister and I had each other, but we managed to get through that, and then learned, my mother, just trial and error are the things that would trigger. No coffee, for God's sakes, no, the nerves and stuff. And yes, he never could play cards again in his life. Hated it, but eventually with Zoloft, it helped him. You speak about not being able to feel. He was never able to love freely until he got Zoloft. I think he was in his 70s. And it's like for the first time he could actually be demonstrative and loving. But he was one of the finest human beings you would ever want to meet. And everybody loved him. We just wouldn't let anybody around when he wasn't feeling good. So they never knew that they thought we were crazy. No, my dad's not feeling good, But it's a real issue, and I so much appreciate your...
And these, any final words here before we end?
I'd appreciate it if you, no caregivers, if you take some flyers and get it out there. Yeah, well, I did pass one to everybody.
Okay, got it.
But if you have others that you feel would benefit from the caregiver conference, that's what it's about. And I always believe that the right people who need it come. But oftentimes, people just don't know about it. And so if you have a caregiver or caregivers in your life or in your church or in your sphere of influence, please make sure that they get this information.
Yeah, this is really important information. And, you know, we're going to take a group picture here like we always do, but I want you to think about, you know, just everything you heard here. I appreciate you sharing. I think it's always about healing, right? When people tell their stories, it's always about healing. But one thing you want to think about, you know, there's two things, you know, I realized, you know, and I wanted to share this. You know, in comedy, because I think laughter is great, right, for everything. You know, what ails you for healing. You know, there's what they call the setup. You know, the setup is the story, right? And then, you know what the setup is all led up to? What does the setup lead up to in comedy? The punchline. And I want to tell you, life has set you up for something. There's a reason why we were set up to talk about this. There's a reason why we happen to have another Marine just happen to be here today. Hoorah! Hoorah, right? But I want to ask yourself, through your challenges, I face my own, but through your challenges, how have you been set up? And you know, the story's not complete, right? It's like hearing a joke, but you don't hear the punchline. What is your punchline in life to the world, right? And so think about that, because that's what you should target. Everything's a setup. All the things that happen is for your punchline to make a difference. Does that make sense? And to have an impact. So once again, I'd like to give all of you, along with our guest speaker, Anne-Marie Nicholson, a big round of applause. All right? And let's go ahead and take one big picture here, if we can all gather up here real quick. And we will...
And thank you so much for joining me right here on TVOSJ, the voice of San Joaquin. This is Betty Ramirez on Sabor Latino. See you tomorrow.